Before we start, I'd like to apologize about the mic quality. I know it's not that great, but it's the best I got at the moment. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. When I started my channel, I wanted to talk about fun things. Action figures, comic books, card games, model kits, things that I find fun. Things that are very cool hobbies, and I know for a fact that a lot of other people think the same way. But something happened that triggered, if you will, a response from me. Something that showcased how much Marvel Comics had fallen and how much in general the comic book industry is out of touch with its readers. And that something was the unveiling of the latest two comic books that Marvel intends to unleash upon the world. Now, I won't go so far as to say that this is the straw that broke the camel's back. It's more a case of there's just too many straws at this point. Oh, things started off small, a line of text in a book here and there, a questionable piece of art. But before we knew it, Iron Man was a teenage black girl, Thor was a woman, Iceman was gay, Hulk was an Asian guy, Captain Marvel was absolutely insufferable, Captain America was a Nazi, though that lasted for one issue because the internet went nuts, and other changes that just don't fit, like apparently Wolverine is now in a three-way relationship with Cyclops and Jean Grey. The only notable exception is Miles Morales, who is probably the only decent character to come out of this. I'm sure you're starting to sense a pattern at this point. All these characters have had their skin color, their gender, or their sexual orientation changed. Oh, and let's not forget about the new Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. Speaking of Ms. Marvel, before the mantle was handed to Kamala Khan, it belonged to Carol Danvers. Now, she was never one of the most famous characters Marvel had to offer, but she was an interesting character. She was actually a strong woman, ironically enough, in every sense of the word. And whenever I played Marvel Ultimate Alliance back in the day, she would find herself on my team because of her fantastic power set and her good looks, something that seems to be shunned these days. And what was done to Carol Danvers is borderline criminal. She became Captain Marvel, and in the process she became insufferable. She became annoying. The fun, actually good character was destroyed in the process. These characters are boring and shallow. They're defined by superficial things such as their skin color, gender, and sexual orientation. And the writers and the artists are using them as a vehicle to project themselves and their personal beliefs onto the readers. It's all done at the expense of these characters, at the expense of the story and the fans. And if anybody dares to question them, they're being called toxic, and every other buzzword in the book is being hurled their way. And that leads me to the reason why I made these videos. And that is the two new books that Marvel decided to unleash on us. X-Men Children of the Atom, which features gender and race-swapped X-Men, very creative, that have such well thought out background stories as to include them having fitness Instagrams and TikToks. That was mentioned by the writer of the book in the featurette, by the way. I'm not making this up. And the other one, the big one, being the New Warriors reboot, which gave us such wonderful characters as Trailblazer, basically a human GPS named Screen Time, who was given his powers by his grandfather's internet gas. And of course, let's not forget the stunning, the brave, the wonderful, the amazing, the infallible new characters, Snowflake and Safespace. These are things that even South Park can make a parody of. I mean, what are they going to parody? Are they going to make actually good superheroes to showcase how far Marvel has fallen? Speaking of falling, this is the big one. Now, the first one, X-Men Children of the Atom, showcases the way Marvel has been acting the past few years. It's just a small escalation. They keep doing that. But the second one reveals the actual fall of Marvel, the actual problem in Marvel and in comic books as a whole. This book, isn't something that's a line from an artist or a sneaky drawing somewhere. This is an actual team of people that got together, sat down in a meeting room, and brainstormed this into existence. Think about it for a second. This thing had to go through several layers of management and people before it got approved. It was pitched, written, it was drawn, and people sat down in a room and said, yeah, this is good, this will sell. And forget sales. I doubt they're even thinking about sales at this point. Someone said, yeah, that's a good idea, let's print that. People will be interested in that. It's going to get printed. This will be an actual book. These characters are going to appear toe to toe with characters such as Doctor Doom and Wolverine. They're in the same universe. This is going to be Marvel canon. This is Marvel 2020. And this is what happens when you don't say no. This mess didn't happen overnight. It started some time ago when a group of people showed up and started talking about diversity and inclusivity in comics. They started talking about over-sexualized female characters. Now, these people didn't care about the books. They didn't buy them, let alone read them. But they felt the need to impose the way they think things should be, just in case one of them stumbles up into a shop and picks up a comic book by accident. But when you think about it, saying that comic books aren't diverse is one of the stupidest things you can say out loud. We're talking about a universe that features strong male and female characters, that has literal gods, shape-shifting aliens, extra-dimensional beings. There's a planet that's a living being that has a face. And also the notion that the comic book fandom isn't welcoming and inclusive is ridiculous. There's no sign that says you have to be this tall to ride. As long as you enjoy comic books in one form or another, you're welcome to participate in the hobby. There's always these things going on about who's better, Marvel and DC, and can Batman beat Superman, and so forth and so on. But for the most part, people will welcome you in this. If the comic book fandom was so racist, would Black Panther be as famous a character as he was? Would they have welcomed characters like Blade and Luke Cage? Black Panther, by the way, created by a couple of white guys. You know, before this whole mess started, I never thought about a character's sexuality or skin color. I thought, do I like this character and do I enjoy the stories involving that character? That was pretty much it. And unfortunately, we missed the moment where we should have said no, precisely because we were welcoming to everybody. We should have said no to these people when they came in and they started spouting their nonsense. The answer should have been, oh, you don't like these books? You don't like the way they're written? You don't like the way the characters are drawn? Well, I guess they're not for you, but you're welcome to go and make your own. No matter the case, no matter how much feedback they receive, these people will continue doing what they do. They will continue to project, they will continue to push their beliefs, no matter what happens to the industry that they did not build, by the way. They just wormed their way into it. No matter how many comic book shops go out of business or how many people tell them that they don't like what they're writing or drawing, it will continue the same way. The very floor underneath their feet is burning and they do not care. They're hiding between their little blog bots on Twitter. They're staying in their little safe spaces and their little bubbles. And whatever happens around them, it does not matter. And the projection is real. One of the most iconic covers featuring Captain America is the one where he punches Adolf Hitler. It's a very, very good piece reflective of the times. And right now, we have that same cover redone with Cap in the background sitting there like a vegetable, and in his place, the brave and stunning woman of color, America Chavez, who has two moms and she's punching Nazis, and the dialogue is cringe-inducing. It is just horrible. And at this point, no amount of buzzwords is gonna stop me from saying what I want to say and what I have to say. These characters are boring, they're bland, they're unoriginal, and these people cannot create anything new to save their own lives. They don't have respect for the existing material, and they don't have respect for the creators and for the people that partake in this entertainment. They are anti-fun, they are anti-enjoyment, and they will browbeat anyone and they will bully anyone into submission. It's ridiculous. The comic book industry, as we know it, is on the verge of collapse because of these people. And for some reason, they keep getting jobs. It's absurd. I know this is going to sound morbid, but I'm glad in a way that Stan Lee is not around to see this. He was someone who was laughed at points of his life for believing and for pushing comic books the way he did. He and people like him shaped this industry into the juggernaut that it became at one point. The MCU, all the things that you take for granted and enjoy, without people like him, they wouldn't have been possible. And these people who have not worked for anything in their lives, who just wormed their way into the industry like parasites, are now destroying it from the inside. It's just unbearable to watch. And in a moment where we need things like comic books the most, where we need fun and hope, these people continue to be exactly what they've always been, a bunch of narcissistic hypocrites. And because they were never told no, now we have Snowflake and Safespace. And when comic book shops are sinking to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, these heroes are here to send them along their merry way, along with anyone else who doesn't agree with it. By the way, internet gas? I guess this is something I can expect from the man who wrote the children's book called Santa's Husband. Marvel's writers, everybody. I'll see you around.